names. Now, I always butcher the surname, so I'm not going to try. I'll get him to say it. My guest today is Theo, and Theo, your surname, I have a hard time with it.
Well, he actually pronounced it Christijn,
which
is actually Belgium, Flemish.
It's Flemish, okay.
But anyway, yeah, there you got it.
Okay, well, that's close to Christijn, okay. Actually, I did okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
yeah,
okay.
Sure.
Well, with Afrikaans, with the G's,
Makes it a bit difficult,
Goedemorgen. So, Goedemorgen. So anyway, there you go. So listen, a friend of mine who's really into rugby had told me I need to get in touch with you my last trip here. And we talked, you said, I'll be happy to give you an interview. And the reason for the interview is we're here at the Ultimate Rugby Experience. If you've never been here, it's a bucket list place. I know I keep saying that about South Africa, but it's a bucket list place. But it's in the process of moving. We'll talk about that in the conversation here shortly. But my friend said that you've got to talk to this guy. He has an incredible collection of rugby memorabilia. And that was an understatement. I have to tell you that, okay?
Yeah, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. This is obviously a lifetime's work you got going here. And we're live. Someone's commenting now. So thank you for that, Keith. So I know we're good to go.
Yeah.
So this collection you have here, before we get into it, I just want to say that when I came last time, you were very gracious. And it was under difficult circumstances. Let me explain why I think they're difficult.
Sure.
So you agreed to interview with me, and then you backed out, but not by choice.
Yes.
Because Supersport decided to film a segment with Jean de Villiers here at the Ultimate Rugby
Experience.
Experience.
100% correct,
Yeah. So I promised Theo that I really wanted to come back here next time. Let's do the interview, and that's how we got to where we are today.
Yeah. Well, welcome. Let's give it
a shot. Let's do it. See how it goes. All right. Well, folks, there'll be some other videos I'll walk around, record that you can see some of the museum items that are here. But okay, so let's go back. I mean, I've never seen a collection of rugby stuff like this. This memorabilia is unbelievable. And the title, I think, is well deserved, The Ultimate Rugby Experience. When did you start collecting things related to rugby?
Well, that's quite an interesting story. It started way back in 1966. I was a little boy of 8, 9 years old. And my dad was also a good rugby player, mad about rugby. And I just, got a couple of pictures of team photos from the Springboks of, I can't even remember, 1949, I think, when we won the All Blacks. And then I started with scrapbooks.
You don't remember what the photos were, but you remember we beat the All Blacks.
yeah. 4-0, by the way. In the series,
Well, that's when they scored tries differently.
Yeah, for sure. So anyway, it started with the scrapbooks, and I remember my first one was 1967, on France towards South Africa. And it carried on from there till 1974 was actually my best ever scrapbook. I think that it was the best ever team that visited South Africa ever till today, because they absolutely whitewashed the Springboks, but they had the legends like the Gareth Edwards, Phil Bennett, Willie John McBride's, the Mervyn Davises, all those guys, absolutely magnificent. After that, I went to university, and then...
Where did you study at?
The BCom, the old BCom in older days, and it's a sort of a business type of degree that you study, but it's more specified these days, BCom financial marketing, etc.
Sure.
But anyway, so some of my classmates were at that point in time playing for the Free State, the Orange Free State, as you know it.
As it was at the time, yes.
Yeah. And one of the guys he played at those years front row for the Free State and later became a Springbok, and a very good friend of mine. And he started giving me some jerseys. Say, for instance, I'd play the old Rhodesia, which is now Zimbabwe. He changed or swapped his jersey for a Zimbabwe jersey, or a Rhodesia jersey, and give it to me. When they play Northern Transvaal, Western Province, all the provinces, the same thing. And that's where it started. And the thing eventually became so big that I had to build on an extra room in my house because the women were complaining, all the cupboards
stuff out of here.
But anyway, so it just became bigger and bigger, and I became at a point that I had to get a proper facility where we're currently now at Nooit Gedacht, Stellenbosch. And I wanted to move away from the word museum, because it sounds very old.
It sounds like old and dead.
Yeah, like an old library where you're going in, you can't chat hard, otherwise they chase you out. So that's why I said it's an experience, not a museum, you know.
It is. It's an experience.
Absolutely.
Very accurate description.
Yeah. And I tell you that went on and on and on. Yeah, so I'm busy for that now for 58 years, and it became so well known around South Africa in terms of under the rugby players, the rugby supporters. You know, everyone that comes to the Western Cape comes here. You know, they want to have a look what here, because I've got jerseys here dated back to 1906, which was actually Paul Roos's jersey.
Really?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Paul Roos's jersey
Wow.
on the first UK tour to the UK. You know. And look, I mean, that jersey is 115, 117 years old.
Something like that. Let's
Yeah.
do the math. Carry the one minus the.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So it went on and on and on, and then my passion became to do a proper history about South African rugby, as from 1891 when South African rugby started. And they only became Springboks, called Springbokken, like they pronounced it in those days, when they landed in the UK. And the guy asked Paul Roos, what do you call yourself? He says, Springbokken. He said, what's the Springbokken? You know, he said, it's one of those animals that is very quick on the feet. They,
Agile.
Agile, left and right. And that is how we play rugby, so we call ourselves Springboks, you know. So that was quite interesting, you know. But then I started. The main focus was to start from 1891 when we play our first test at the Crusaders ground in Port Elizabeth, and it never stops, you know. So I'm sort of redoing the whole thing, you know, to represent South African rugby. As from 1891. But the interesting part of it as well is I'm trying to do pairings. In other words, what I'm saying is, say for instance, I do get a jersey of Phil Bennett or say Andre Pollard or whatever. I try to match it up with the opposition for that day.
I see.
Yeah,
that's
so
clever.
that pairs it, you know.
Yeah.
And as far as I know, I'm the only guy in the world who's currently doing that.
I'm not aware of anyone else doing that. That's a nice approach to it.
Yeah.
You know, you've got some things in the collection here that aren't just Springboks. I saw some All Blacks jerseys in here, and I did see some British and Irish Lions stuff over there.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Look, no. To start with your first question, the All Blacks had some great heroes in their time. You know, the Common Meads type of guys, etc.
It's an amazing rugby nation. That's why I love to hate them.
Completely. You know, very competitive on the field, off the field, very nice people to mingle with. And then the British and Irish Lions is just a passion to me. You know,
really?
Yeah, absolute passion. You know.
Well, what about the 2021 tour? I mean, I was planning on coming to that. I registered a year in advance for tickets.
Yeah.
And then when the tickets went up, they didn't happen. Of course, nobody went yet. But when the tickets went on sale, they went on sale in UK first, only UK.
Yeah.
I don't live in the UK, so it wouldn't let me buy them. Then they went on sale only in South Africa.
Yeah.
What was the point of having me register? So I couldn't get tickets. But in the end, it didn't matter because no one went to the games.
Yeah. It was actually very disappointing, the 2021 tour, and a little bit connected to the inside of SARU, South African Rugby Union. Mm-hmm. And the tour, when they started, when the tests started to happen, just before that, there was almost, it was like 80% sure that they will cancel the tour because of the COVID story. And then the unions came together, the British, Irish Lions, South African Rugby Union. They decided to play all 3 games in Cape Town without spectators, which was a huge disappointment. But the rivalry will
the rivalry survived.
But as I said, you know, the whole world went through the COVID. It was very, very terrible. The museum here, for instance, was covered with people, you know, all the experience. With the restaurant,
he called a museum, not me. It's a rugby experience. So you were packed for people watching the game there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We were completely packed, you know, and such a vibe here. But just coming back to the British and Irish guys, the fact that they only tour every 4 years.
Yes.
Just Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, and only every 12 years in South Africa, you know. That's what makes it very exceptional, you know.
That's why I was so disappointed we couldn't go to the games.
Yeah,
absolutely. 12 more years for that.
Yeah. No, well, I don't know how old you're going to be, but I'm going to be bloody old by that time, you know.
We're not going to talk about That's right. They do have handicap entries. No, but you know, I have all kinds of kit. In fact, with me, I have my British and Irish Lions tour shorts, which have SA stitched into the pocket. And then I've got my carry bag, which is British and Irish Lions. I was so excited to come here for that. It didn't happen. And then, of course, it wasn't without controversy. Warren Gatlin started moaning about the TMO before the series started.
Wow, that was a very controversial story.
And then Rossi kind of told it like it was, and people didn't like that.
Well, that was, I think, from my point of view.
You don't have to comment if you don't want to.
No. From my point of view, maybe a little bit of a mistake from his side.
Yeah.
But eventually he paid for it. But I mean, what he brought to the team is exceptional. You know, Rossi was an absolute, still a brilliant coach. You know?
A brilliant tactician.
Tactician, you know, everything.
He's also a hell of a water boy too. We should mention that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Highest paid water boy in the world.
So what is just coming back to the British and Irish Lions? I've got complete history in which I call the Lions Den right at the back.
Oh, is that what that section's called?
Yeah,
okay.
I call it the Lions Den. You know, all the tours as from 1891. That was the first test they started playing, but then they were called the British. Britain was called, you know.
Just called Britain. Okay.
Yeah, just Britain, you know. And then in 1924, it was the first time called the British Lions. And then at that point of time, they played in blue jerseys. And that's a very interesting story.
That is.
Dark blue, like the shirt
like navy blue, like navy blue.
And South Africa were dark green. And after the first test,
they all look the same.
The ref said he can't see the difference between the two sides, you know.
Exactly.
And
it's all muddy and they look the same.
Well, it was after this first test, they decided to stitch on a yellow band across the jersey so that you can see the difference between the blue jerseys. Then 38 again was the last in the blue. And there's a book out called The Last of the Blue Lions, which is very interesting. You must go and read it if you've got time for that. You know?
Absolutely.
And then in 1950 they started with the red, and that was against the All Blacks, you know. So till the Second World, till before the Second World War, it was all blue, you know. And unfortunately, there was so much talent in as well as British and Irish Lions sides in the Scotland, Ireland, England, Wales, which started and was on their prime of their game, and then the Second World War started, you know. And the only guy that I know of that two international teams was Tony Harris. He was flyer for 1938 for the Springboks. After the Second World War, 1948, he earned his Springbok cricket colours.
Really?
Yeah, that's a very interesting story.
That is quite
fascinating. But that's very sad, you know. For that 7-8 years, you know, a lot of the guys, you know, was on their peak just before that, and after that we had to sort of rebuild. But then the All Blacks came out, and well, you know the result. We demolished them, you know, completely.
Indeed. Listen, I've been a Springbok fan since 1982.
Okay, brilliant.
I was introduced to rugby at university, and we didn't have a national side. The U.S. had put together a team of collegiate athletes for the Olympics in 2024, and we won. So until Rio, we were the defending Olympic champions for almost a century.
Yes.
Despite not having a national team. But we got a team in '84. But before that, there was no national side. So who am I going to root for? And of course, in America, they didn't broadcast rugby. So, I mean, the only way you could watch rugby is if you went to a club match or something like that.
Yeah, for sure.
And so that's how I got introduced to it. So I decided to send it to South Africa, and I looked at, I couldn't root for England. And I couldn't do that. Couldn't do that. Sorry, England. And then I just looked at the teams that had the best history, and the Springboks had such an iconic history, and I had interest in South Africa, so I became a Springbok fan.
Oh, interesting to know that.
Yeah. So, and then shortly afterwards became a province fan, and then eventually when the Stormers came along, the
Yeah,
Stormers fan
yeah,
too.
yeah.
So my heart's always been with the Springboks, and it's always been in this part of the country when it comes to rugby. But
Yes.
it's an amazing game. Everybody can play, boys, girls. They even have like beach rugby, all kinds of things.
Yeah, and well, from sevens, which started a while ago, till beach rugby. They got the beach sevens.
Well, they've got tens
or the
now
beach
too.
touches.
Yeah.
They've got tens. Look, I mean, South Africa is a complete rugby nation. They're completely mad about that.
Well, I don't think just South Africa's mad about it. I think someone else is mad about rugby too. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
This oak right here.
Yeah.
So, do you have a piece or something particular here that's especially precious to you personally? Maybe that's not worth something, but is there something in your collection that you're like, oh, I'm so glad that's in the collection?
Yeah. Well, as I've mentioned previously, the Paul Roos jersey is absolutely special. I don't know if anyone in the whole world has got a Paul Roos jersey.
I'm not aware of it.
Yeah, no, not at all. And look, everything is special to me, but Bismarck du Plessis' debut test against Namibia before the warm-up of the 2007 World Cup. Johan Steger, who played after isolation the first test, we invited New Zealand here and Australia, and we played the first test at Ellis Park, and Johan was a university mate of mine, and he made his debut for the Springboks in that test. Jerseys like that means a lot to me. And then I got the opponent jersey as well. But as I said, a hell of a lot of special stuff. You will actually see it on the video as well. That there's quite a lot of special stuff around if you read the descriptions of each and every jersey.
Well, and it's not just jerseys. You also have other things like I see the game pennants that I guess pennants.
Yeah, they call it pennants. Yeah. For each test, each player gets a pennant of that specific game. Which says which test against whom the stadium, and all that stuff.
Yeah, and if it's a particular event like it's Curry or not Curry, if it's like Super Rugby or if it's a test stage.
Yeah. And then it's very special photos. And I don't know if you know, in the older times, touring times, I'm talking about the 50s, 60s, maybe beginning 70s. If they go overseas on a tour, they were invited to the dinners. Look, I mean, dinners doesn't happen today.
They wear
jacket, the cap, they got a day blazer with a gold embroidery and a night blazer with completely
Now the only time they wear the blazer is for an award ceremony or a team photo. That's the only time they wear it.
They did it normally with a embroidery, the team photos, or either in their jerseys, so that's as I said, very special. I also got blazers dating back to 1912, which was actually the last tour to the UK before the First World War. And interesting enough is, we started playing international rugby in 1911-12 on the UK tour, then the First World War, and then we were invited by New Zealand to play a test series against them, 1921. And there were only two Springboks who finished the 1911-12 and who were elected for the 1921 side, and they were about 36, 37 years old. Well, I have one of the guys, Gerrit Wortel, is it pronounced? His blazers hanging in the museum of that 1921 tour. But that is, if you will walk through it, we actually try to contribute also to the Players Fund in South Africa, would look after people who've got injured and will never recover.
Well, I was going to bring that up because sitting directly across from us is a case devoted to the Players Fund. You've got Chris Borga and you've got Petro Jackson on there.
They actually did a function here, and just to introduce the whole thing. Look, this thing is coming way back, and it was started by Morne du Plessis, and it's coming way back, and we decided with the income that we're going to generate here, a certain percentage per year or per annum goes to my Players Fund. So
some of the revenue generated from the property here does.
That's
fascinating.
Yeah.
Now, both of those gentlemen sadly passed away after.
Unfortunately, they did pass away.
Yeah, that's kind of sad.
And I don't know if you remember in the 1995 World Cup, Ivory Coast, the World Cup, the one guy got injured, paralyzed, and he also passed away now a couple of weeks ago.
Well, the 95 is a tough one. I mean, so many Springboks have passed away now from that. Hughes van der Westhuizen, and so many others.
Kruger, all those guys.
It's a shame.
It's terrible, actually. But I mean, that's the way, But the interesting thing of the museum is you've got to keep updated. I'm still saying museum again, but
yes,
the experience,
folks.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah. So when you come here and you call it museum, they won't chase you out because the guy that owns it calls it museum occasionally. So let me ask you this question. Let's change a little tack here. Do you have anything interesting like, well, everything here is interesting, fascinating, but something a little bit different, like, do you have any Velvicia stuff? Do you have any like Rhodesia or Zimbabwe things in here?
I've got Rhodesia, the old David Smith, he played Springboks. At those years, Rhodesia were allowed to play for the Springboks.
Yes.
David Smith was one. Ray Maud, everyone remember Ray Maud, Rhodesia stuff. I've got some of his stuff here as well. Well, Richards, Namibia, is that what you're referring to? Yeah. Jan Ellis.
Okay.
Was an icon. He grew up in Kubabas, which is on the western side, close to Botswana, and then went to Windhoek. Very, very difficult guy. He was actually also passed away. So we do are trying to connect. Not, as I said, the Springboks I'm trying to pay. So it's actually international sort of experience, You're getting the Springbok jersey and the opposition.
There you go. Well, you got the Lions den. You got some
yeah.
all black stuff here. So you can see where my sentiments are.
So what do you say about the Wallabies?
I don't like them either. Hey, well, let's change gear.
Yes.
If we can do this very quickly, we'll cover a little bit more. We're okay on time. You don't have to rush off. Okay. Let's. What we'll do is I want to ask you about the 2023 World Cup. Get some predictions. Get your thoughts on it, and then we'll disconnect the recording camera and the microphones. And if you don't mind, walk around for just a few minutes and point a few things out. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
So, folks, be patient with us. When we finish with the questions here, you're going to see a blank screen for. Well, it'll still have the stuff behind us, but we won't on the screen as we get set up. Just to walk around, include that as part of this broadcast because you're actually, before we go any further, this experience is moving. It's having its own out-of-body experience from here to another location. And when is that taking place?
Well,
it's actually already underway, isn't
it? Pardon me.
It's underway already, isn't it? I've seen some empty.
There's some empty display areas here currently. We're not moving. We're moving not far from here, also in the Stellenbosch region. A bigger venue, a bigger restaurant type of thing, and we are going to be secured of a longer lease period, from the landowners, So that will happen over the next 2 or 3 months, and then we will be up and running again,
So will it be a period where it'll actually be shut down for a little bit?
Okay, they're going to renovate the whole thing. The new developers wants to renovate the whole place inside, So we have to take it out. Unfortunately, we can't just move it over. Not everyone has got a big facility like this available for, but looking at the history of Springbok rugby, for me, is so important.
Oh, I agree.
You have to do that. And look, it's not my mind extreme coming of money, but this is just my passion and my hobby.
It's not your main affectation. It's just it's something you love to do. Yeah. Well, I think that without trying, Teo has actually put in a little Easter egg here. He's forcing me to come back to Stellenbosch because I'm going to have to see the new setup in the new location, which will be up and running by the time I get back to South Africa next time.
Well, that will be wonderful.
Well done. He's got me coming back. So if people want me to come back to South Africa, you can thank this guy. I'm going to have to come back just because of the rugby experience, the ultimate rugby experience. So you get lots of visitors, I'm sure. Do you get people from around the world? I mean, other than just me come in here?
No, we get, COVID was a problem.
Sure.
Obviously. But a hell of a lot of visitors. We were actually signed up or subscribed by the Cape Tourism Board. They send all the big buses. This is part of their route. They stop here, they come and have lunch here. walk through the experience. Yes, but a lot of overseas people, they love what they see.
Well, I mean, everybody should love
what they see.
And you guys are in for a treat if you hang around. You're going to see here in just a couple minutes. But, so do you get many Tottenham supporters coming through here?
Who's that?
I don't know. Ask Lindway Sisulu.
No.
So I was at Newlands
yesterday,
and I went in and filmed.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking. I mean, it's I never attended a game at Newlands, but it's such an iconic part of South African rugby.
Absolutely.
To see the state of disrepair that it's in is really heartbreaking. But apparently have R1 billion to put SA tourism on the sleeve of Tottenham.
Well, it's heartbreaking actually because it's the second oldest rugby stadium in the world. The eldest one was Lansdowne Road.
Yes.
And heartbreaking, but we all growing into the new Cape Town Stadium.
At Greenpoint. Yeah, it's okay.
Greenpoint is beautiful.
It is. It's okay. It's also well located. It's really in a great spot.
No, sure it is. Yeah. But the old Newlands, I mean, there's so much history on Newlands that happened there, and different tests, So, but sad thing, but I suppose life goes forward,
I suppose it's a fair point. Time moves on, and we can hang on, but there is an effort to have it declared a heritage site. We'll see if that pays off. But if it is a heritage site, then it's going to need some sprucing up. And
absolutely,
if you see my videos on it, you'll know what I'm talking about, sprucing up.
Yeah.
But okay, I think maybe now is a good opportunity for us to get up, and I'll follow you around. Just point out a few things, okay?
You wanted to ask me about the World Cup.
Oh, I forgot. Well done. See, I'm failing as a broadcaster here, folks. After this, I'll be serving as a waiter here at the Rugby Experience, but they're closing.
Thank you. We need someone.
So let's get my beer caught in the drinks. So when you saw me last time, it was down here.
I remember you.
Yeah, well, I mean, I tell people, I said, the problem is my beard is like our economy; it's in recession.
Shoot. I thought this guy was coming out of the middle of Africa, with his long beard,
All right, so 2023 Rugby World Cup. Any thoughts, projections, predictions on who's going to do well and who's going to win it?
Yeah, I think, we had quite a lot of debates about the 2023 World Cup. I think it's most definitely going to be the most competitive World Cup since the World Cup started in '87, because the Springboks was not involved there, and also not in '91. Yep. And but Ireland is currently number one. I think the runners there is Ireland, France, Springboks, New Zealand, and the other team you must not forget about is
Argentina.
Argentina could be. I think obviously I want the Springboks to win.
Yeah.
But I see South Africa France final.
I think I have to look at the polls, but that seems realistic.
Yeah,
I'm with you. The teams you just mentioned, now you said there's one you can't forget. We'll get back to that. But the problem is this. France looks good. They look good. They're performing very well. But they choke in World Cup finals.
They do.
But I mean, the history doesn't necessarily bear out this time. Yeah. So France, I think, is the strongest candidate, but maybe a little suspect.
Yeah.
Ireland looks good, but they're inconsistent in my view, and they've won games they should have lost because their opponent played poorly that day.
Well, that is so.
But they're a good side. They're a good side.
Very good.
Johnny Sexton's 8,000 years old now. So and then you mentioned that the Springboks. I would put them in that order. I'd say France, Ireland, Springboks, and the All Blacks. The All Blacks have been out of sorts for a couple seasons now.
No, they're good. Sure.
But you can never, ever take your foot off the throat of the All Blacks until the hooter goes off and that ref blows the whistle.
It's 80 minutes into extra time. It's flat out the whole time. But as I said again, interesting World Cup, very interesting World Cup, and the fact what you say, sometimes France is choking in big games. I don't know if you remember. I think it's 2011 World Cup. They lost 8-7 to New Zealand in that final.
I remember.
I
was in New Zealand.
And actually, I think France were the better team on that day.
Yeah, there was also a lot of belly aching about the officiating. No, I remember that. That was I went to New Zealand. It was my first World Cup.
Yeah.
So I went 2011 to that. Then I went 2014 to Paris for the women.
Yeah.
2015 England. I went to 15-16 tests or matches at 40 pool stages.
Yeah.
Then 2017 in Ireland for the women. 2018 in San Francisco for the sevens. Then 2019 in Japan for 18 of the 40 pool stage games, all in Japan. Then I was supposed to be in New Zealand in 2021 for the women's and the Rugby League World Cup. Both were postponed in England and New Zealand. I had tickets for New Zealand because expenses. I'm not Bill Gates, so I can't go everywhere. So I went to the Rugby League World Cup just a few months back in England, and which is interesting. It's different. But I didn't go to the women's. So that's the first World Cup I missed. And then I was here in September for the sevens World Cup, and I'll be in France.
So I've got, that's something looking forward to, But I think it's going to be a very interesting. And the fact that South Africa is based in Marseille, that's their base camp. I think they play 3 of their pool games there, and the others is across France. I think Bordeaux.
I know. I have to make my travel plans because I have a Springboks package. I have to go all over the place.
So they book an extra 3 venues because we're going to go right into the final.
Well, I only go for the pool stage.
Well, okay. So
I watch the rest at home on TV.
Well, okay.
And the reason for that is, I mean, if the Springboks are in the final and it's somewhere I can get back to, I'll go back to the final. Japan wasn't practical to go back because I never got home.
No.
But I mean, let's say if the World Cup is in France and I go home and then, because it's easy to fly to France. And then the Springboks the final and I get a ticket, then I'll go for the final. But other than the Springboks being the final, for me, I prefer watching on TV. But the pool stages are interesting for me because you see Romania, you see Fiji, Samoa, USA. Now you see Chile and Uruguay.
Yeah, for sure.
But not the USA or Canada. Neither one is there.
But I think the USA, I think, is picking up a bit. They're not doing too bad. And I think that they're going to be a reputable side, but not now.
Well, I think
maybe in a couple of years' time. They had a couple of.
We'll have a good chance to compete when we host the World Cup in the States.
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
I'm not predicting we'll win, but we have a good chance to compete that way.
Maybe the vibe sort of picks up, But anyway, the biggest nation, the world, has got a rugby side, which doesn't perform. Well, it doesn't play World Cups. I think it played 1 World Cup.
No, we've been in every World Cup.
No.
We missed the first one, and we've been in every one since then, except this one now. It's our second one missed. No, we've been in all the World Cups.
Yeah, well, okay, all right, but
we just don't perform very well. That's why
they qualified for the World Cup.
Yeah, we're in the World Cup. Yeah. I went to 3 of the matches. I went to all 4 Springbok matches, and I went 3 USA matches. Yeah.
Well, okay, I see. Yeah, so that's quite interesting. We're looking forward, especially to get this venue ready.
Okay.
In the next 3 to 4 months, as I said previously.
You got to have it ready for the World Cup.
Ready for the World Cup. The previous World Cup 2019, I think the quarters, the semis, the finals, we were 500, 600, 700 people here.
Wow.
All together,
Wow.
And you can imagine how it goes in, especially if the Springboks win, we have to keep the doors open till 3 o'clock at night.
You probably have the police showing up at some point. It's time to close. All right, with that, one more thing. You said, you didn't say this, but I think you were implying there might be a dark horse in the 2023 World Cup, another team that was it England or someone else, or no? Because I don't think England's going to do very well.
No, definitely.
Wales isn't going to do well. They brought Warren Gatland back, but Wales
maybe the Wallabies. Maybe the Wallabies.
Oh, the Wallabies. Okay, yeah.
Wallabies,
yeah, the Wallabies. Well, I mean,
they got a new coach.
Yeah, they sure do. Eddie Jones. Eddie Jones.
Yeah. So, but look, I mean, they were always in the contest. They lost a bit of rhythm over the last year or 2 or so on.
But in rugby, that can come back so quickly.
Yeah. They got good players, really. I think they went through a little bit of a building phase, but I think that is the guys who must look also for what might be a wild card out there. So that's it.
All right, Taylor. What we're going to do now is we're going to disconnect the mic. Stay with us, folks. I'm going to flip the screen around. I'm going to follow them around just a little bit so you can see some of the experience. It's not a museum. Okay, we'll take the mics off now.
Okay.
Okay, cool.
I hope that was all right.
No, that was fine. And I'm glad this finally get going. We're still live. So let me go ahead. I'm going to turn the camera around now, folks.
Okay, sorry.
No, you're fine. You didn't say anything untoward. Turn the camera around. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to follow Teo around a little bit around the experience right now. So there he is. And you can tell me, point out anything you want. and we don't have to spend a lot of time to it. Just give people a flavor for it.
Yeah,
Since it's going to be in a new location soon anyway.
Surely we'll do that.
Okay.
This is just memorabilia of the 2007 World Cup. And then interesting on this one is, for instance, Johan Ackerman. He played for the Springboks in 2006.
Is that the Johan Ackerman Lions coach?
Yes, yes. That was the jersey they played in the 100th year of Springbok rugby. 1906, 2006, Lansdowne, we lost the test, but they made a special jersey with a badge on it.
That's
same color, same color as the 1906.
In that emerald green color.
Yeah, that emerald green color. So that's very special. Teams that visited me, like Waikato, Queensland Reds, the Crusaders. Here you can see Tony Blackadder handing over a jersey to me, and some of the.
Where are you in that picture?
No, I wasn't there. Right in the middle, man. Right in the middle. Yeah. I might a little bit be greater, but that was me.
You're that handsome fellow.
Yeah. Andre Venter, some of Andre Venter's stuff here. Iconic flanker in South Africa, 97, 98, around about there, you know. Him, Rossi Erasmus, and Gary Teichman, unbelievable Deuce trio, you know.
I see you got an Italian rugby jersey there.
Yeah.
And Welsh?
Sure. Yeah, Welsh.
Okay.
It was, I can't remember his name, but anyway. Very interesting this year, well, I'm going to be quick, it's a combination. That is what I'm trying to say to you. Previously, the pairings on the
pairings of the players, yeah.
The same test. There, for instance, this is all Mario Joubert.
Yeah.
Mario Joubert was only the second guy who scored 3 tries against the All Blacks, and this is the photo of him of that specific test, and that was the jersey of him and Tana Umaga. And that's what I'm talking about, the pairings.
No, that's absolutely brilliant. Look at that.
And I took the pictures, you know, which can show the back and the number, which correlates, you know. And that's what's making it so interesting. You know?
It's fascinating. It's like you said, I don't know anyone else that's doing this in the collection.
Yeah, I know. It's actually a little bit, yeah. And then there's old legends. The well-known sports commentator, Gavin Cowley. I think you remember Gavin Cowley. There's all these rugby stuff from SA universities to SA 15s to even his old blazer, school blazer was there, grey Port Elizabeth, grey eye actually, you know.
I see that.
And then my old favourite is the British and Irish Lions. Unfortunately, I took out the one after 1955 tour, but I got from 1955, after the Second World War, all jerseys of every year that they toured South Africa.
Wow.
Except for 2021, I do have, but it's not on display.
It's not on display yet.
Of course, you know, it's got to move, so I don't want to put it up and remove it then again.
Sure.
So, yeah. And then at the back here, not going to go into all these pictures because that will take ages.
It would take hours to cover all that.
That's the other thing that I wanted to mention, which I mentioned earlier to you. Let me start over there first.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. This is a picture of the 1995 World Cup.
Yes.
Casey Pino was the assistant coach and a very, very good friend of mine. So I sent pictures of all the players who played in the final by that size, like Joel Stransky. You will see Joel Stransky signed it. Yep. And they had, a month after the World Cup 95, they had a lunch with all the players and Nelson Mandela. And I was so lucky that Francois Pienaar and Nelson Mandela signed that.
Both signed that for you?
Yeah, both signed it.
Wow.
So this is very special. It was the first time that we competed and the first time that we won it, you know.
Yeah, first time out of the gate they won it. Yeah.
That is, as I said, also very special. And coming to this side, that is what I mentioned earlier, trying to represent South African rugby as from 1891. It carries on down here, and then I stopped when I had to move out. Old stuff year over year. I've got 1949-51 tour of one of the Springboks. You can't find this anymore. You know, you have to do so much work because it's not with the children anymore, it's with the grandchildren, you know. And it's packed away, and they have to go and have a look into the garage or wherever it's packed away, you know. H.O. de Villiers, well-known fullback in South Africa, he started running rugby from coming in between the two centres or the outside centre and the wing. He passed away a while ago, but he donated all of this to me, you know. So absolutely special, you know. Caps. 1903, where will you find a cap?
Wow, look at
900, 1900, 1903, 1903 Western Province, you know.
Wow.
I mean, you can't find it, but to getting it is very hard. It's very hard. Here's the well-known Paul Roos jersey. I got all the original signatures and even the blazer badges at the bottom here.
Wow.
Which was, you will see underneath there, you know, whose it was. You know, one was Leroux and one was Freddie Hirsch of that time. You know, pictures like Paul Roos personally signed. You know, which we digged out of archives, took a lot of, and this is the sort of a program I was talking about, and the dinner invitations after the match, that type of thing. You know. So yeah, here it goes on. This is the one that I told you about now. Told you about the 11-12 tour, 1911-12 tour to the UK, and then only after the First World War, they played the first. We invited by New Zealand to play 3 tests there. You know, and this is now. And how lucky can you be? I've got Henry Morkel, which was a winger in all 4 tests, and someone phoned me the one day, and he said he's Russell Morkel. He wants to come and show me something, you know. And he pitched up with exactly Henry Morkel's, he was a winger, opposition's jersey. Now, where in life will you find this, you know? 1921 pairing.
Wow.
You won't find it.
You won't find it. Unbelievable.
And these were the caps of each player. They stopped the capping in 1938, stopped it. And then with the dates on it, you will see 1921, yes. 1921.
And also, if you look closely, you can see it's embroidered with the Springbok.
Yeah.
Same here.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah. This was the 1924 I told you about, when they couldn't see the difference between the jerseys. It was a bit bleached down, but it was dark green, like this one. And then the dark blue jersey of the British Lions. You know? And that is the one that I told you after the first test they used with a band, the yellow.
To distinguish between the blue.
Distinguish between for the Rev. The Rev was actually complaining, you know.
Yeah, they couldn't make out who was who.
Couldn't make
out. It's the scrum half. I don't know which side, but some scrum half made a penalty.
Exactly, yeah.
So since you can't show me a jersey, I can make a difference. You get the penalty, but I didn't do anything.
Yeah, well, exactly. No, I agree with you. Yeah, and then the legends like Jean-Pierre Rives. Everyone remembers Jean-Pierre Rives with the long blonde hair. It was not interesting enough. Is if you look into the details of all these pictures, you will see he was a flanker. He was 1.7, I think, and weighed 85 kilos.
Good Lord.
Yeah, he was playing the flank, but absolutely brilliant. He was like 100% against the British Lions in 2009. You know, small guy, but I mean, he was absolutely a fighter. You know, he was turnover ball, everything. That was the
incredible,
you know, of France. He was an absolute icon. You know. So, yeah. So and then a couple of jerseys here, some pictures of
World Cups. That's 99.
World Cup 99. I was there, and luckily we, unfortunately, we lost with that drop goal of Stephen Larkham of Australia. I think you remember that.
Yep.
Then the elder jerseys. Just an interesting story here quickly is the white Springbok jersey. This one is only the second time after 1906 that the Springboks played with a white jersey, and he was the captain, Eddie Muller. I don't know if you remember Eddie Muller. And Australia played in green. Can you imagine that? They started with light blue, like the Waratahs, in 1933 when they toured South Africa. Then they went over to the green, and in the 60s they start with a yellow jersey. You know.
Yeah, I think with the white jersey, it's I think 3 times now they played with white jersey, if I'm not mistaken. This one, the previous one, then they played not all that long ago. They had a white jersey.
They do. They play much more with white jerseys now than before 90. Only 3 times.
Yeah, that's what I was getting
at. 4 times. You know, now 81 against Ireland. I've actually got a pair here of Nas Puerta and Mickey Quinn. It's a fly off and 81. You know, so that's that's actually interesting. Old jerseys, like everyone will remember the John Gainsford of the 60s. He actually made his debut in 1969 with a tour to Argentina for the junior Springboks, and then became a Springbok in 1960. One of the legend centers of South Africa stopped playing in 1967 against France. You know, then he was a little bit too old. And you know, then the Evan Willie Fries and the Monarchies Zeus and those guys came through. You know, which is interesting. This not a lot left, but this is very interesting. There was 7 phases of the Springbok badge, and in 1963 and 64 they decide to they call it in Afrikaans pronkbokkie. You know, pronk. If the Springbok jumps up, you will always see his feet together. You know, when he moves. You know, in the field. You know, in the bush. And for 2 years, 1963 and 64, they played these jerseys. This is, you can't find it. You cannot find it.
This is where the Springbok jumps in the air over the ball.
Yeah,
like that,
over the wall, yeah. This is the jersey of Keith Oxley. I think everyone will remember Keith Oxley, a brilliant fly-off. Also played 5-6 years for the Springboks. Yeah, then an interesting year is 25 years of our democratic change in South Africa. We played against Argentina, and South African Rugby Union decide that the Springboks must play in a red jersey. You know, isn't that funny to you?
That's very strange.
Yeah. And this was Jan Serfontein's jersey. I think.
Huge fan of Jan Serfontein. I love watching him play.
Yeah, absolutely. There's the old man, Frick de Preer, legend of his time. He's 86, 87 years old now. What the absolute legend, you know. I think one of the best players of South Africa ever had, you know. Interesting enough is they had the 1968 British Lions reunion here in the museum, and a lot of the 68 Lions were here. And they was,
sorry, I've got to stop you. The experience.
The experience.
Hearing the experience.
And anyway, they walked in here, and all the British Lions, we by the likes of Gareth, it was Willie John, not Willie John, Mike Gibson, Peter Stagg, those guys were all out here, you know. And then we invited a couple of guests like Hannes Murray, Frick de Preer, etc., etc. And when they came in, Frick de Preer saw Gareth Edwards, and they grabbed one another around the neck. And Gareth, the tears started running out of his eyes.
Oh, wow.
He said, I can't believe that I see you after so many years. He said, hang on, Frick, he was a difficult guy. He said, hang on, where's Mr. McBride? He said, no, Mr. McBride couldn't make it. He said, well, you tell him a story. And if I see him again, I'm still going to moor him.
Springboks never die.
Very old stuff. That was our 1937 tour to New Zealand. There we become the sort of uncapped world champions of the world, because we were the first team that won New Zealand in New Zealand. And the last day, 17-0, I think, was at Auckland, where we actually never win. You know. So, this is
a different era. Springbok cigarettes, the sportsman's
Springbok
choice.
cigarettes, yeah.
Different era.
And France, you know, interesting as France is. When we were sponsored by Castle Lager, they.
You couldn't put on the jersey.
You couldn't put it the logo
because of a ban on alcohol advertising.
Because of the alcohol, you know. So they took it off, and I got one of the jerseys here, which is then the Blood Brothers that they call it, Peter Matfield and Bucky's Buddha, you know. Great jerseys too.
What a combination.
Yeah, what a combination.
I've never interviewed Bucky's, but I have interviewed Victor Medfield.
Oh, you're done, yeah. I've got a hell of a lot of his jerseys. Yeah, quite a nice guy.
Yeah, brilliant.
This is some white. This is Cronier's white. This is also one of the white ones when they played, but that was after 81. Completely after. This is an interesting story I wanted to show you. They took the glass.
That's where they
Charles.
No Castle Lager. They put Charles in.
Yeah. That they weren't allowed to play in France with that. World Cup 2003, and then one of my special ones is Siakurisi. That was a test series, the incoming tour in 2017. And you will see the two pictures there. He handed the jersey over to me, and also his opposition jersey of France. And it looks funny here because
they were advertising.
They were advertising.
It's not actually the World Cup. That's their advertising. Yes.
Exactly,
yeah. But it is if you don't know, it throws you off.
Yeah, it throws you off. Yeah. So then
John Smith.
The John Smiths.
This is one of my favorite jerseys. I love these with the lines in it.
Yeah, is it? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Brilliant.
So yeah, this is there's quite a lot over here as well, but there's some hell of a lot of pictures here, team photos, etc., and some old Springbok blazers, which is brilliant, which you can't find anywhere these days. They just they don't even have the year underneath it. They just say Springbok Rugby. Springboks. It's rugby every year, 74, 75, 76, whatever it is. You can't find that anymore. So,
all right.
Yeah, that is. I think we covered about 40%.
Well, yeah, 40% maybe. Let's walk over the table and we'll wrap up, okay?
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
All right, folks. I hope you found that interesting as we go through the rugby experience, which is not a museum.
Experience.
We get over here. We're just going to wrap up real quick.
Yep.
Hang on, Pete. I don't mean to give you all vertigo here. Oops, there we go. All righty. Okay.
You need the mics.
No. That's just on the other camera. So there we go. All right. Okay, folks. So thanks a lot for tuning in. I hope you found it interesting, maybe fascinating. You've just seen a little bit of what's actually here in the collection. Yeah. The Ultimate Rugby Experience, located here at
Nooit
Gedacht, and but relocating elsewhere in Stellenbosch. We'll make sure that we get you the location once it's up and running, so that you can go check it out. It's epic. So, Theo, I want to say bye, Donkey. It was a real pleasure.
Yeah, thank you very much for interviewing us, and it's a great pleasure that people can at least more or less see what's happening inside here. Yeah, and come and visit it, please.
Exactly, and the good news is that since this display is going to be removed no longer in this facility, we've got this recorded for this facility.
Well, that is brilliant. That is what I love. Thanks very much. Much appreciated. Yeah.
All right, folks. Theo Christine. Christine. Okay, it was Christine from
the old beard grow, and then you'll remember.
Exactly. And we'll catch you a little bit later with Dr. Peter Groenewald here on Chris Wyatt Reports. Thanks a lot, everybody. Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Give us a like and share the word.
Okay. Well done. That was actually brilliant.